don't assume they understand how any of this works. They don't. What are you thinking?
I think it's a nice script for the seller. I'm chuckling just because, having worked with a lot of realtors as the buyer, they typically don't then take that and apply it to a buyer, right? I've never had a realtor ever say to me, oh, you get to determine the price of the market. They all say, well, this is what we have available, this is the inventory, right? So it's interesting to me that you're kind of speaking out of both sides of your mouth depending on who you're speaking to.
Well, except for that the mechanism that the buyer does determine value, and that mechanism is what they're paying.
I agree, but when you're kind of having that language of the buyer when you're trying to get them to make their offer, we don't infer that they have that kind of power at that point, right? That's why I see traditionally it's
I see what you mean. It's kind of a different thing, but yeah,
sure.
no, I get what you're saying. I saw that little sparkle in your eye.
Dealt with a lot of realtors.
Yeah. So on the next page, page 16, it talks about pricing to reflect market movement. It requires facts and numbers, yet it's also an art, the art of persuasion. Choosing the right comparable properties is a big step in the right direction, but there's much more to it. Your job as the listing agent is to help your sellers understand how the right price impacts the marketability and the saleability of their home. So, one tip that I gave you, I think is very apropos right now, is, oh, you're thinking about selling in the near future? Are you thinking about selling in the next year and a half? You might want to consider selling sooner than later. We're at the top of the market, we're anticipating a shift. There's already a lot of evidence, the market times are being extended, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Number 5 here on this page, I think is so incredibly important, and it's called don't chase the market, price ahead of it. Because there will be people, not in this market, but in a rising market, that say, well, I'm not that motivated, but if I got this, I would put it on, so just throw that on and da-da-da. Now, are there agents that are willing to do that? Yeah. You might be too, but honestly, I think one of the most very important pieces of being a truly successful agent is when you're wearing your listing agent cap to price properly. Your relationship with other agents is so important. And when I'm looking through and preparing to work with buyers, and I look at the agent, I go, oh, good, they price well. Or, oh my gosh, they'll list anything. Or, I mean, you know.
Yeah.
And we live in a community, yeah, and there's 1,600 agents, but fewer than 400 of us do, I believe, more than 2 deals a year. You know, we have a thing on Maui, right? It's like, not everybody has their driver's license. Everybody has their massage license and realtor license.
Can you repeat that number again? You said 1,600 licensed realtors, and fewer than 400 do more than 2 transactions a year?
Yes, sir.
A lot of people just sit with their license.
Well, and remember, what's our job? We're lead generators. How many of you didn't know that was your main job when you started, right? We don't. We go, oh, I love homes, I love working with people, I'm good in sales, I'd be a good realtor.
Right.
No leads, no deals.
Yeah.
You know, so I think the average, it used to be, I don't know what it is now, but the average life of a realtor was 13 months for a long time. And that's because it's because of reality. Right. And it is tough, especially now, you know, given this business is completely different now, and you know, like having to hold on to jobs as we, you know, grow and build, and I mean, yeah. My mother had Alzheimer's. She was with me for the last 10 years in my home. Whew. And couple that with the recession, well, it was not a good decade. And my business really, you know, really went down because of it. But lost my thought. It's okay. But yeah,
This business has changed. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, the business has changed.
Technology.
Completely.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I was still working and doing, you know, keeping one oar in the water. But when I came back on the scene, she's been gone like 2 years, I'm still trying to build it up to where I can get an assistant, cause that really helps, keep this from happening, because, you know, you can only do, you know, so much. And balance, please keep balance in your life, I'm telling you, you'll make way more money. Otherwise, you just get fried after a while. And
You're talking about like other activities and just.
I'm talking about making sure you don't just do nothing but work. Well, when I'm successful, I'll do this, when I'm successful, I'll do that. Live your life, it's that kind of balance it's how you'll grow and continue to be the kind of person that can have a really successful real estate business. It's so important, yeah, very much so. So definitely our market's shifting.
It's funny actually, on this number 5, I had kind of priced mine, and then like right before I actually even got to that, I lowered my price just based on kind of some of the comments that we were making around, you know, well, you know, if I see this thing's kind of been sitting for X amount of days, and, you know, then I came up with a price that I said, you know what, why would I then want to compete with everything else that's sitting out there? So I went slightly under. Now, I haven't had the conversation with the client yet, right?
Right, no, but yeah.
That was, yeah, so.
And
whatever.
that's how this
That's
works, because there is no real science.
Sure.
You know, I start with a big list, and then I bring it down, and then I bring it down again, and then I pour it over again, and then I think of something, and then I walk back through it, thinking through that lens. And then I walk back through, you know, and it happens. You just keep pouring over, you'll be fine. And, you know, any insecurities you have when your real opportunities start popping up, that's what the KW culture is all about. You can call me anytime. I love helping new agents.
Thank you.
It's very satisfying. Helping a brand new agent write up their first deal, it's very exciting. So, yeah, and there's a lot of us that feel that way. So, you know, just take it as far as you can, and when you think, oh, I'm not sure if this is good enough, and I'm not quite there yet, and I don't know what else to do, you reach out for help, right?
Thank you.
And, you know, yeah, because you have a team. You have a team. The next page, 17, is what we're in, and that's a declining market. I mean, the bottom hasn't fallen out by any means. We're still right up there, but it's gonna happen, and it's not necessarily negative. It just means you're doing a different job, because the job description changes as the market changes, without question. You know, when prices are falling, sellers make a huge mistake by pricing too high, hoping to attract the offer they want, and thinking they will drop the price later if the strategy doesn't work. The reality is that most sellers who do this never correct enough to keep up with price reality. Sellers who price right will get the buyers, while the listings that are chasing the market down will take much longer to sell. And I just can't even begin to tell you how many offers that are pretty close and pretty good that I've recommended they strongly consider taking, that they have not, and then 3 months later they sell it for less than that. It happens all the time.
That listing right there, it's comp sold for $655 and was on the market for 43 days. That just had a price reduction for less than that price, and it's been on the market for 43 days. So it's still gonna be on the market way more than the comp was, because they didn't price it correctly.
And you did a beautiful job of figuring out why that happened. That's why
they listed it at
they
the
listed it, and
price.
then they started paying attention and saw what had happened with the other, right? But maybe too late.
It's too late.
It's too late, yeah, that's right.
And so in 3 months, they lost how many thousands of dollars? Right.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Maybe one of them doesn't wanna move, maybe they're in no big hurry,
Right.
So
or maybe they're just really stubborn and now their hands are all screwed up.
Right.
So what I'm asking is, from the list price to the new price, how many thousands have they reduced it? $30,000.
679 to 649.
And the comp is $655.
Yeah.
And had they come out with that price in the beginning,
You know, I have no
when
idea.
it was new and it was hot and it was, you know,
I don't know this agent,
cause the thing is, the buyers are going, oh, it's brand new. You know, it's not an old listing,
yeah,
but once it's like what, 6 or 8 weeks old, or at least 4 months, it becomes an old listing and everyone's like, well, what's wrong
with it? I know.
What's wrong with it? Why isn't it selling?
Well, that brings me to another tip.
Yeah.
Unless you just don't have time, I always really take a second look at that, cause everybody's assuming that.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be that this week they finally are facing reality, or this week, I mean, it doesn't mean it's bad, it's just that we have to manage our time, right? And, in markets where there's plenty of inventory, those properties don't get shown as much. There's only so much time in a day.
It just happened to me on a personal level. I had been watching a house at Comparative Masters.
Yeah.
And it was in the low 8s. And, you know, I thought it was slightly above what everything else was. And, you know, so I kind of stopped tracking it for a few weeks. Next thing I know, I saw it went down to 775, like a huge drop immediately. Within the next day, it's gone, right? So I've seen a few of these where you kind of, they do a little, right? And there's no activity, and then all of a sudden, it's almost like they hit kind of a break point that now, I think we have some reasonably knowledgeable buyers, A, locally, and B, coming. And it's almost like they're waiting, and they put these,
Buyers are savvy
you know,
these days.
they put their alerts out there, and they're just waiting for it to get to that point, right? So, you know, to that end, sometimes it's, are you gonna do it by the slide of 5K and 10K at a time?
Yeah.
Or are you gonna come right out of the gate and grab those people, and maybe you're going with a strategy of a bidding more for those folks? So,
And even though once they dropped it, it went, who knows, they might have made 20 grand more if they had priced it appropriately in the
Right.
beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. Yeah.
so, I mean, you also have to factor in what are, you know, in some of these times, what are carrying costs, right?
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, maybe you think you're gonna get $10,000 more, but it's gonna sit for 4 months and it costs you $3,000 a month. It's a wash, right?
Correct.
So, you know, I
That's
think
right.
there's a lot to this.
So there's lots of
finances.
questions we're gonna ask our sellers to understand what's motivating them and what they need to do and why they need to do it, and when they need to do it. And Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what will happen if it doesn't sell? Then what are you going to do? Because that's gonna bring out all sorts of information that you can use to help them face reality. Yes.
Oh, I was gonna say, my sister just sold her house in Redondo Beach, California, it's a suburb of LA. And her comps from last August justified, I don't know, probably close to 1.2 million. She came in 1.15, you know, and I had no offers, very few showings the first 2 weeks. And her realtor said, we should lower your price, and she called me, she wanted to know how much, you know, and she, you know, she was considering going 50 grand. And I said, I would shop at 50 grand right now while you're still hot and fresh and new. Just take it now, and she sold, like, I don't know, within the first 3 weeks. And she got just a little bit under what she asked for. It was a really solid offer.
Great.
But that's a good example of, you know, of beating, she knew the market was shifting, and it was like, listen, when I was in real estate school, I heard some horrendous stories of people that tried to chase the market down. And
They're still running.
yeah, in 08 or whatever, you know, yeah.
Wow.
And they just lost everything. When if they had just taken the 1.2 and not the, you know, even though they listed for 1.250, whatever, if they just taken that
Serious
1.2.
You know, and in the recession, it wasn't just that the market fell out, the banking system.
Yeah.
So then the loan, people lost their, I had people,
Yeah.
what, I swear to God, I'm turning my phone, sorry. I keep turning the volume down. It's weird.
I have the same problem on my phone.
It does weird things sometimes.
Maybe they're buyers. I would be turning that thing way up if I were.
It's a private number. I had 2 parties in escrow when all all that banking stuff was blowing up and
Mhm.
they were getting nervous, and so then they started getting really strict in the criteria. I had 2 escrows, they both fell out because of that in a day, and we were getting close to closing.
Oh,
But
yeah.
at the time it was heartbreaking, but later I was happy for them because they were buying at the top,
Oh,
right?
right.
And it was.
It would have been upside down.
Yeah. So,
Mhm.
yeah, that was a tough situation. I mean, there's just so much to all of this, I know,
Mhm.
it's crazy, but just remembering that it's all about relationship, and it's all about, them trusting you and knowing that you're putting their needs first, because they need a realtor, they don't understand how to achieve their goals in this arena, right? And then learning how through scripts and information and graphs, relaying the information in a way that they go, I get it, right? You know. It's really easy in the real world when you sit down at their kitchen table and you're doing the CMA and like that, to, sometimes you're just not in a strong mood. Sometimes I'll go in and I'll be talking to buyers and sellers and realize that, Jeanie, you need to start being a professional, not just to agree with everything, or, you need to be the adult in the room sometimes, right? Respectfully, but again, what is your job? To help them realize their goals. So, it's just the way that is. Just like buyers, there are buyers. Their daddy never paid full price for anything. Don't even make fun of people. That was fun. Right, and they, so no matter what, even though, but there's 2 other offers coming in, and your wife is in tears, she's so in love with this house. And so for $10,000, I wouldn't put it this way, but, we don't want, right?
Mhm.
But it definitely happens. Oh, Kevin.
Sorry, I didn't get in front of
nice.
you.
Yeah. Are you downstairs?
No, Mama Mia's.
Oh, yeah, I heard that.
I have friends that were deliberating over buying land adjacent to their oceanfront property out in, I don't know, some remote part of the island, east Maui, right?
Mhm.
And they kept going back and forth with the bank on their offer. They did not wanna come up at all on their offer. And I kept hearing about this because they were in the small group I go to, and finally I said to them, 10 years from now, is that $10,000 gonna make any difference to you? Or is losing this property gonna make any difference to you? Cause this is the property that doubles your lot size and is ocean side of your property. Hello, this is your view property, like $10,000, really?
Mhm.
Like, what? Get
And
the big
again,
picture, 10
some
years
people,
from
that's
now.
the way we do it. 'Cause that's
Yeah.
my dad did it,
And you
my
have to-
mom did it. So you need to help people
Yeah.
work through that kind of stuff too.
10 years, and it's a good question. 10 years from now, is that $10,000 gonna mean anything to you?
I had a client argue with me about how they were not self-employed,
They were not self-employed?
and they were absolutely 100% self-employed. Because, and for me, it just goes to like, our job is not to be their therapist, our job is not to like heal them in their worldview.
Right.
Like,
Well,
this person absolutely believes that because he was an employee of a company that he created, but nonetheless he was an employee and there were no other employees, there were no other owners, it was just him and the company.
well,
But
is he,
was not self-employed.
is it,
Sole proprietor or?
right, is
But,
it,
yeah.
Incorporated.
Thank you. Because if that's true, he is an employee.
It's an LLC.
It's a corporation.
Yeah. So he's an employee, he's his own employee.
Right, but nonetheless,
then-
for financing, when I spoke with this all comes out in
Yeah,
that
all this stuff-
process.
all this
So
stuff
they
comes
still
out.
treat that as being self-employed because there is no other
Mm.
owner of the company, and he owns 100% of the company, in which he is the sole employee. And so for me, I just was like, okay, the lender is telling me that ultimately what it's gonna come down to is he just needs 6 months of working as the sole employee of the company in which he is the entire owner, in order for him to qualify for financing. So instead of arguing with my client, I was just like, so the game plan then is
There you go.
6 months, rather than trying to argue with him about whether or not he's self-employed.
Gotcha.
So it just, I don't know, the
Well,
experience for me was, you don't need to just correct people, sometimes you need to let people believe what they wanna believe.
Yeah, there's no,
And like you said, find out what their goal is. Their goal is to buy a piece of property. So the way you can help facilitate that is just tell them, just give it 6 months and you'll be
Right.
golden for
Mhm.
financing.
Right.
Wait, and also, that's another thing, is you talk to people, they're gonna tell you, sometimes your buyer, going, well, I'd love to, I don't know if I can, I've got this coming up or that. I always tell people, hey, it's never premature, it's my experience, that if we sit down and talk right now, it's just gonna help you learn a few things to adjust and, expedite the process, you're gonna get there even sooner, and maybe there is possibility for you to take action sooner. I don't wanna waste your time, bye.
Bye, thanks.
See you, Cory.
I'll see you next time.
I just tell people, I say, hey, the way my business works is when I serve people, my needs are met. I like to do a lot of business by referral, because nice people refer other nice people. So I am getting something out of this. It would be very good for my business to have this relationship with you, and I think I can help you right now. If it turns out that doesn't ever work out, I'll bet you if you end up never being able to buy, but I have really helped you, try everything you could, that when you hear of someone thinking about buying or selling, you will refer them to me. See, they have to understand why you're doing something in order to trust you also. It's kind of funny. But if they think you're just saying things to tell them that day and, but if you explain, this is how my business works. And you may think I might be wasting my time, but even if you never bought a thing, you wouldn't be wasting my time. And really, this is how my business works. I think it's a shame that they filmed this, because it's probably the funkiest class I've ever taught, but that's all right, that's all right. We've gotten off onto enough tangents to where we're running out of time. It's going bye-bye, so, I wanna spend the last 10 or 15 minutes talking about, on page 19, pricing strategies. Experts don't ramble on, right? They get to the bottom line quickly and then they confirm that they've been understood. So what this is about is, well, we can just do it in the classroom here. Talking to them about factors that drive price, what sells, et cetera, et cetera. We've already discussed, I think pretty well at the bottom there, don't chase the market, right? We've talked about that. Pricing is about market movement, so that of course is, how many sales are going on, what is the active, what is your competition? When you were saying, well, why wouldn't I pull that up? You would, absolutely you would. It's just not within the context of figuring out the price. Because that all plays a huge role in that. Window of opportunity. Would anybody like to take a stab at what would be a quick, easy way of explaining them why it's important to price because of that window of opportunity that we have in the beginning?
Could be seasonality, right? So you want to price in the best window of opportunity for them to get what they're looking for, right? So to your point, you had the person who wanted to price now because they want to sell and they want to get the max. But the window is really, based on your thinking, is in January because that's when the high season is.
Well, that's true in that particular case because they have the time to play and we can throw it on in that. The window of opportunity I'm talking about though is the first couple weeks it's on the market. sorry, but,
Yep.
you know, in those first 2 weeks that are on the market.
It's not like an old listing,
I'm sorry?
so it doesn't look like an old listing, but
Right, doesn't look like an old listing. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if we price too high, then other agents are going to use your overpriced listing to sell another listing. We do that, you know, we'll use that. I'm not gonna necessarily point out that, oh, that's way overpriced, I'm gonna say, oh, look at all these.
But also maybe want to speak about what effort you're going to do to market and sell the home in that 2 week, right?
Yep,
Because
yep.
doing open houses every day is.
Right, you know, I'm always very careful not to put something on the market till I'm ready. I get really frustrated when people put listings on, they have 2 pictures.
Yeah.
What if
I don't
that,
understand that.
that perfect, well-qualified buyer is looking every morning, I work every morning and every afternoon for my people. And boom, you know.
Never get a second chance to make a first impression.
That's exactly right,
Yeah.
you know, that's exactly right, so, you know, those are the things you have to work with them, we're gonna get all ready, and then we're gonna, put it together, we're gonna launch everything and do it completely, so that, and, you know, I tell people, I say, my main focus is on the agents. I market to the agents, they're the ones that have all the buyers, yes, I'm gonna do open house, we're gonna send out, we're gonna market, and in your marketing house, you're gonna show them like 300 different ways that their listing will be advertised, through the Keller Williams system and so on. So there's all, you know, all that going on.
Are you looking for that office or?
Equipment, cabinet space.
Oh, yeah, right back here.
Oh.
He's in this store right here. Yeah, no
Surprised
problem.
me.
No problem. Yeah.
We're all his assistants, it's all right.
Will you do me a favor